Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI live noding. This is part 3 of this spirograph explorations using Spirograph. So this is the final result that I'm actually getting after spending some time trying to recreate the spirograph. Currently, it's not really like a spirograph; it's more like interconnected lines. Let me show you real quick. If I change this to, maybe I have to change the number here. So apparently the bigger the number, the more it doesn't look like a spirograph. Currently it's just like lines overlapping each other. But let me try play around with the number. Maybe small number. Sometimes we do get the spiral, such as this one. And so as I increase the number, we can see that it's starting to get that kind of spirograph kind of look. The actual number itself though, because when we are actually using the real spirograph toy, we get like always like a perfect kind of a curve, you know, like a maybe it start like this and then spiraling and continue spiraling until it goes back to the original position. That's kind of like a perfect curve. With our setup, sometimes we don't always get it, sometimes it's miss, you know, but there's a one number that will actually does the job for us, such as this one. This is almost perfect. We just need to close it in here. So that's really important. So I can keep tweaking the number here or here, and eventually I get like a interesting spirograph. I can play with the circle. Okay, this circle, this is actually the big circle. That's kind of stretch the spirograph or make it smaller. There's like heaps of combinations we can get by using this setup. Perhaps this is not the most efficient or the most elegant, but if you try to make this yourself, you will eventually come into a certain setup that's kind of working, but it's not like a single answer for everything. It's like this one, I can actually adjust the smaller circle and we get that kind of shapes and that kind of shape, and then I can actually tweak the number of vertices as well, if I'm not wrong. The number of vertices doesn't seem to matter in this case. So in my setup, I also make this guy kind of animating. So you see, I can make the points kind of swimming through and then creating an interesting animations there. Yeah, so the setup, if we look briefly, I will try to do this again from scratch, but this might be a little bit difficult, but I will give you this node setup anyway. There is this circle and gone, we don't need that. And this is actually the bigger circle, and then this is some smaller circle. Really what's happening here is the bigger circle is kind of duplicating the smaller circle, and from the duplications we apply it and the matrix apply, and then the output goes into UV connection, or we actually just pick one of the index of the circle. The funny thing is, this is the spirograph thing, right? This is like a single curve from start to end, and then it's gonna end at the same point, and it's become this kind of flower kind of curve. That's that guy. If I bake it out, we can get that shape. Now, if we actually look at this guy, this is actually quite interesting. This is actually the duplications of the circle itself. What I mean, by that is that if I try to play with the number a little bit, yeah, this is actually the circle itself. Maybe I'll reduce the number. Maybe make this circle bigger, smaller. Now, with this guy, the number of vertices actually matter. Let me make this maybe bigger or smaller. Make this guy bigger. I kind of want to show you what's this circle is. Currently it looks like the flowering thing, it looks like the spirograph, but this is actually just a bunch of circles, all in different sizes. And if I, okay, maybe I bake this. If I bake this out, I get something. I can separate this. Well, actually, this is also a single object. Maybe this guy. No. Maybe the opposite. The U directions is gonna give me. I think this guy is actually separate. Let me try separate by loose part. There you go. This is actually separate objects. Okay, this is the difference between the first one and the second one. And this is all the three curves being rotated in the crazy sort of way and then being connected again using U-free connections. Yeah, anyway, this is some kind of strangeness that he will kind of discover in Spirograph. This strangeness is actually the power of Spirograph itself. So what's going on down below is how we kind of just rotating the smaller circle so I'll draw it. Okay, I'll start from scratch. It's gonna be a lot more clear. So I'll use the grease pencil, and then basically we're gonna create a large circle, and then we're gonna duplicate small circles. This is as if we are kind of rotating the spirograph using like a colorful pen. So we're gonna duplicate this all. It's not like along the, yeah, it's kind of like along the circle, but it's like a lot of them, and so many that you cannot see anymore. But for each one of them, this small circle is also rotating on itself, on its own pivot. As it rotates, we kind of tracing the points along, and then eventually we're gonna get that kind of like a single curve that does that, or a multiple curve that creates the flowery pattern. Okay, let's do that real quick. Save as Spirograph. Fun. This is fun because it's a little bit convoluted, confusing, but it's actually interesting as you continue. If you do it from scratch, step by step. Maybe you watch this video once and then try to do it yourself, or try to come up with your own solutions. This is kind of fun actually. Start with a circle. This is gonna be the small circle. Give it just a small number of points there, and then there you're gonna have a bigger circle. Let's check it out using the viewer draw. The small circle, we can actually, if I change the mode and just change the degree slightly under 360, now we have this kind of a clock. Maybe I can use this just for visualization. We can always turn it back. Okay, so this is the clock facing like a 3 p.m. We can now kind of just make a duplicate instant, kind of make a copy of this guy while rotating it as well. So we're gonna use matrix apply. Wonder if we use matrix apply here or matrix in. Let's try matrix in first. Just plug the vertices there. See, we have the clones. We can have as many as we want. Currently we just have just a small value so we can see it, and we're gonna rotate the small circle while rotating the bigger circle as well. So let's rotate the small circle slightly each time. The rotations should be in the z-axis. So we have this new rotations vector. They call it vector xyz mk2. So this is 111 by default. It should be, for the z is 001. And then the angle, let's test it using frame number. This is gonna be rotating 1 degree for each frame running. The handy thing about this XYZ is rotation axis is that we can switch this to -1, so it's gonna do the opposite. Like this is clockwise, we can make it counterclockwise. It's up to you. And for this guy, for the angle, we're gonna, instead of using frame, we're gonna use range float. So this is probably gonna be a step. For each step, we're gonna slightly rotate it. Maybe if we're rotating in 36 for 10 times, you're gonna make like a kind of like a full 360. But we don't need to do that. That's not something we need to care about. What we care about is the number of vertices here and number of vertices there. As we increase the number of circle, it should rotate more. And imagine if we have a lot of this circle, we just connect that one vertex, connect to that guy, connect to that guy, that guy, that's that. So it's soon, as soon you keep doing that, you're gonna get like a curve that's resembling the spirograph shape. Okay. This actually, instead of using circle, it will be also clearer if we use the line for now. Gonna make the line real quick, and maybe the line, say the number of vertices of the line matching the number of rotations count. This goes into the locations. Let's increase the stepping. What's gonna be interesting is if we pick that one single index, we can kind of trace it. Let me do that real quick. So with this going on, we can apply matrix, I believe. Or do we need to use matrix apply? Maybe we do a matrix apply, vector and matrix. And then the output, we just get item. I believe the output should be a couple of points. There you go, right? And from that, we can use UV connection. Select that, plug that in, plug that in. This is gonna be like kind of tracing our points, like so. Yeah, that's actually the basic of our setup. Is really simple. We can adjust the radius of the small circle. We can also adjust the radius of the bigger circle, or in this case it's a step. And we also can play around with the step number here. More frequency or less frequency. The line, currently the number of the line and the range float is the same. We can actually separate it. I just remember. So a better way is probably use a multiplier here. Anyway, I can make more of this line, like 50 of them. This one I'll actually, okay, 50 as well. The step seems to be matters. Okay, like that. I don't know, I think that this guy and this guy should be the same. So we can have more. Increase the radius, and we start to get this kind of spiraling. With the spirograph, is of course, it's instead of going in one direction like this, like a line, we make it like a circular. That's why we use the circle instead of lines. But you can see this is basically what's going on. We can play with the start, play with the stepping to control the spiral. Okay, this is yeah, this is pretty much what it is. Increase the size, smaller circle. Now if I change this line with the circle, we get something that's looking like a spirograph, although yeah, I think this is pretty much the spirograph design. You see, this is what I mean by imperfection. It's actually, there is the right number for each spirograph. There should be the number that's kind of making that perfect flower. In this case, if we have like a smaller number, maybe we tweak this. We have different result. Make the circle bigger or smaller. It's gonna give the effects. Okay, it's rather simple after all. Took me a while actually to get to this point yesterday. There is one, I believe the stepping actually can increase or decrease the resolutions. I like to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 flower petal. This is the like the spirograph thing. I can adjust the scaling right there. Okay, the radius and the vertices doesn't matter too much. What's interesting is if we look at this guy, it's more complex, more interesting looking than the final spirograph. Give it a color. This guy, if I bake it out, is actually made up of a few. See, this is all the bunch of circle, which is really, really interesting to think about it. So, in fact, if I use the UV connection here, we have a different result. So this is one. This is like 3 potential result that we get. Do we need the matrix apply? Yeah, probably we do. In fact, I think this is more interesting than the other guy. We can have 2 control. And let's turn off the point numbering. See? We also get there's a, what is that big circle? This is this is kind of, this is pretty good. See, eventually you get to the point where, hey, all right, that looks That looks perfect for this. Doesn't seem to be, it's not too complex, not fair, not too simple. Like that, 36 and 20 somehow. Maybe 10 will work as well. 10 give you that, and 20, and maybe 30. 20 is good. This is the radius of that guy. We can have less or more. Apparently every vertex gonna generate more of this spirograph. This is exactly the spirograph that we want. Okay, maybe have 7 here as well. Mode, leave it like that. Slice. If I bake it, this is actually a single objects. Interesting. I can separate it. So 1, 2. This is 7 objects. It's not a proper spirograph. I think the proper spirograph will connect all the lines, if I'm not wrong. But this is quite interesting. And then let's do a little bit more with this. Apparently, so so we have this already. And then what's the next thing we do? We can use the BMS MK2 to generate an actual result, which is this guy. And still, this is working with sphere chalk, still live. If we bring this to let's see, let me think. I'm gonna bring it to animation nodes. Actually, I'll use this template, and I'll use icosphere, and I will switch. This is still Blender render. With the icosphere, I will create materials, and this is gonna be with object color on. This is gonna be our instance. This is a bonus for you. If you following the video, this you can also create this. This kind of if you want to make like all like a point slam on along the spirograph, you can do something like this. Since this is like a nearing the Christmas and all the lights and candles, we can do that in Blender. Okay, transform output. Location is gonna be from the spirograph. Get the mesh data, object mesh data, plug this guy in. It's actually, actually wrong. Object mesh data is our spirograph. Protect locations is gonna be the points location. Plug that in. We're gonna have the icosphere the same number as the vertex number. Okay, that's pretty simple. All the lines there is from the parents relationship lines. We can turn it off. Turn off grid points, world background. Okay, that's cool. How about the color? Okay, the coloring. This is the fun thing about the coloring using object instancer. Instead of coloring the lines itself, we can just use the combine color nodes. And this is going to be attributes, object attribute output. This guy, each one have special color. Value have wrong type. We need to separate the color here. And this should be combine vector. Red, green, blue, plug into the value. Value has the wrong type. Ah, okay, I was wrong. Apparently we don't need to do this. We don't need to separate the RGB, just plug in the color there. It's working. And I just make the hue and saturation up. If I increase the value, it starts to look like a like a lamp. Plug in the index into the hue, we get, oh, we don't get anything, because if you want like a rainbow color, remember our trick, just use the subtract or divide index divided by iterations, we get rainbow color. And of course, like I said, this is still, oh, by the way, if you ever get your camera cut like that, you just change the clipping 2500. Like I said, this still should be working with spread chalk. It's actually animating if I made it animating in spread chalk. Let's animate the start. Put it there. So this should be animating. If we switch to 3D view full, Alt A, see, this is the spirograph with animating colorful light. This is our master's icosphere. Let's hide it. You can do furthermore like maybe resampling. You can resample the lines so you have more even distribution of the balls. Back to spread chalk, Spirograph Curve. I'm gonna save this. This is for you, the geese. Here in the UV connection, I believe we can, maybe we can use vector interpolation here. This is the output. Vector interpolation. MK3. Plug that in there. The edge will not work anymore. We're just gonna get points, but it's still gonna work. The points will work with animation nodes to create instances. Float range. Plug this guy in. Count. Update it. It's gonna make like all these points for our spirograph. 100 points give us that, 120 points, 240 points. If we have like crazy number, 600 points. Still work pretty fast, and we get that. I don't think we need the vector interpolations. Back to where we were. That seems okay. We can make the balls bigger or smaller, the lamp. We can still control the radius. Animation nodes should update if I make it updating every generation like that. I can make the stepping less, maybe. Now that's quite nice, right there. I can turn off. Make it only render. See, like unlimited variations, like a flower. Of course, it doesn't. If you don't want the rainbow color, you just use a different pattern of your own, like as a wiggle. Let's wiggle the. Actually, wiggle the value here. Hue saturation value. If we actually do it like combine color, do we have wiggle color? Maybe we don't have. Vector Euler number wiggle. Number wiggle is probably what we want. This plug into the seed. Frame number into the evolution, and we need We need 3 of them if we are using RGB. We need only 1 if you just want to play with the hue. So this is going to be the color. This is 1, 2, and 3. See, we get this kind of variations of just red color, because when I forgot to plug in the seed into this guy and the seed into that guy, and evolution. We have grayscale because the number of the seed number is the same, 0, 0, 0. If I make changes, we get the famous random RGB color. Not very pretty, but some people like it. With the material, this is a Blender render. If we are using cycles, it can become like a proper light. I can make it shadeless and render, but it's not gonna be light unless we turn this into emission. Emit. So emit. If I render it out, see, it's like a proper light. It's gonna look nicer with cycles actually, but cycles has its own color complexity. Actually, I might switch to cycles just for bonus. Cycle render. Now, okay, our objects are kind of complaining, hey, our material is no longer Blender material. Okay, use node. Get that. Switch to cycles. Don't use diffuse, use emission instead. Emission, surface, okay. Here we have color, strength, not too strong, it's gonna be white color. That's actually a proper light there. If we have like a floor, see how it's a kind of illuminating the floor. Yeah, okay, that's cool, but that's just a single color, not so interesting. Let's have cycles material output here. Get our material, get the emissions. We have the color data, we can just plug in the color if I'm not wrong. Aha, it didn't quite work because it's kind of working for all the object color. That's not gonna work, so we need to use attribute for that. Vertex color. Set vertex color will actually work for our objects. For each and every object, we're gonna have a different color. And back to cycles material, we can use the attribute color. Let me check if our object has that color data. Okay, it has color data. Attribute call. There we go. I think the strings can be more or less. The interesting thing is, looks like the set vertex doesn't quite work with every single one of them. Wonder why. Let me check. Aha, apparently because some of them still using diffuse. I kind of need to reset the instancer in the animation nodes. Here, object instancer, just tap U and then reset source data. If I'm not wrong now, it should be working. No, it's not. So each one of them should be using emission. I think they're kind of emitting something. Interesting. Okay, the floor is actually wrong. Ah, okay. Sorry about the glitch there. The floor was using the wrong material. Now our lamps are emitting color. They are all in this random color, RGB color. Sometimes it gets black as well. We don't want that. We don't want a black color Christmas tree, because we are using number wiggle, you see. As we changing the time, this is actually updating. Number wiggle is okay, but sometimes give like maybe 000. So instead of doing it like this, let's use HSV and then have this plugged into the hue. Saturation set to 8, value set to 2 or 1. Yeah, I guess this is quite decent kind of Christmas decorations. If we switch to 3D view full, and then let's have a timeline here. Switch to render. It should be a lot faster depending on the cycles setup. Actually, working with the color and then the number pattern is actually can be quite interesting as well. Currently, of course, we know the light is changing every single time. Sometimes you don't actually want that. You want the lights kind of changing every click. Remember to do the click thing. Instead of having frame plug into the evolutions, you want to kind of if you use like floor calculations, floor divisions, maybe like 10. Now it's gonna change. It's gonna change the value of color every 10 click. Yeah, the number pattern is really interesting. Actually, you can have like a single chapter just all about color and number pattern. Because like I said, you can have like maybe like a color that's like a 0 1 0 1, like turn on and off every time. That's a if you ever properly observe Christmas light, Christmas tree lights, it makes the colors of the lights are changing on and off. But it also have kind of like a rhythm. Sometimes doing the crazy thing. Sometimes it's kind of shifting the color, all sort of a thing that you would expect from Christmas decorations. But yeah, this is the basic idea. Please do play around with the color. I think it should be interesting, and the pattern. I might actually, if I continue milking this as the idea of spirograph and a Christmas light, and make a nicer pattern, maybe yeah, this can be another live noding video. But anyhow, leave me a comments down below or feedback, suggestion. Let me know what you think, and if you have any question, also ask me down there. I guess that's pretty much for this live noding. I'll see you in the next video.